Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the TAPcast. And today we're joined by Adam. Say hi, Adam.
Hi.
And like last week, I'm Terry. We have an Alex.
Hello.
And we also have a Peter over there.
Hello again.
So this week, some of our topics are kind of centralised on a sort of feel of nostalgia in a way. We'll kind of elaborate on that a bit more as we go on. So I guess one of the things we want to start with, though, like last week before we get into that, is what have you guys been up to this week?
Well, I've been in London, so I haven't actually had a chance to do anything other than be on my training course and sit in a hotel room doing fuck all.
Oh, sounds fun. Yeah. Well,
Not really.
I've just completed book 4 of Dreamfall chapters, an episodic game, which is I'm really into at the moment. Choice-based as well.
Is it finished at the moment? Are all the episodes out?
No, I was waiting on book 5, and that should be it.
Oh, right.
Yep.
What is this Dreamfall? Can you elaborate? Because that's new to me.
It's done by Red Theatre, and it's a choice-based and outcomed game, a bit like what what's the name of the game again? What's Square done? Life is Strange. My mind went blank there.
So
yeah. So
the
your
choices
choices do matter, and they do affect the next chapter or 2, 3, 4 chapters.
Unlike Mass Effect.
Ooh, burn.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the popularised sort of genre, like term for those games now is butterfly effect games, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's taken on yet by the industry or not.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's quite interesting to try and remember what the very first game was to sort of introduce these concepts.
Fahrenheit was the first one I played.
Was it? I can remember Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex, had something like this, where your choices did actually have some impact on how the story panned out.
I think it really depends on sort of the degree of which the choices actually have an impact.
True. It's like you can go back to Sonic CD on a Mega CD, and that had multiple endings.
Sort of getting back to Mass Effect, actually, I was actually incredibly surprised. Looking back to all sorts of influences Mass Effect has sort of borrowed from, and one quite heavily, especially at the end of Mass Effect 3, where a certain thing happens, which people will probably already know, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers for people who want to play it who haven't yet, which is quite similar to what happens at the end of Deus Ex. Again, I'm trying to avoid what happens, but if you play Deus Ex, the original Deus Ex to the end, and also Mass Effect 3 to the end, you'll probably see what I'm getting at here.
So for everyone that's played one of those games, Alex has just spoiled the other one.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
I've played Mass Effect 3.
Yep.
Really? Oh, so you might know.
Yeah,
we've
but
not
I haven't played through Deus Ex yet, but
No.
now I know.
Thank you very much.
Possibly, yes, yeah.
Well, saying that, I've made a start on Deus Ex, but I've been playing the sort of revised release, that fan-made mod, Deus Ex: The Revision. So, I don't know whether they've sort of kept it all the same exactly story-wise or not. I don't know. It's going to be a bit of a weird one, and I probably wouldn't know any different because I haven't played through the original version. So.
Well, you're the leading authority on the Deus Ex original.
Oh yes, I would tell you straight away if I had a gander if they'd changed anything integral to the story or the theme. Is it mainly just a graphical update?
I think so, and they've also done a remastered soundtrack as well, apparently.
Oh dear.
It depends what they mean by remastered, because remastering can be anything from taking the original source files and just putting them into, creating from that a higher bitrate files than what they put in the original game, all the way to we replayed it using different instruments.
That's not entirely possible, really, when you say higher bitrate, because
no, I mean the source content is obviously a much higher bitrate than they would have put in the game. So
it isn't though in case of Deus Ex, because they used module files. So the samples are literally as high a bitrate as you're going to get. There's just like a load of. It's like basically like a module file, sort of spanning back from the days of Amiga. Is essentially just a load of sample files, and then a lot of instructions telling the player or the tracker how to play those samples back. So you can play them in a certain order, the volume. There's a few commands that sort of you can adjust the volume and do arpeggiation.
Yeah.
But Deus Ex used a similar system, sort of like a module format.
I mean, so far, Deus Ex Revision has been getting quite positive feedback from the community based on the Steam reviews I've read and everything. Like, a lot of people have been sort of saying, like, it's quite faithful to the original in terms of the aesthetic and the style and everything. So far, it seems to, have kind of touched that mark based on what I've read. But I don't know, you'll be a better authority than me on that.
Oh, that's good to know. As you probably realised from the previous podcast, you might have picked up on. I'm a great proponent of the atmosphere, the feel of a game. Sometimes it can be quite intangible and difficult to pinpoint what it is that makes a game feel the way it does. Or sometimes you might be able to sort of, step back and say, oh, actually, yeah, it's the music and how things look, or certain things like that. Usually, I think it is that for me. It's usually a combination of the sounds, a specific type of music and sounds of the game, coupled with how it handles. I can remember the very first time I played Deus Ex, my friend sort of touted it a bit incorrectly as sort of a bit like Half-Life. And it wasn't really. The only sort of semblance was that you could pick up a crowbar. But I'll truthfully say the first time I played Deus Ex, after sort of playing games like, I don't know, Half-Life and other FPS things, it felt very clunky.
Yeah, I mean, but then saying that, like, compared to sort of how games handle nowadays, a lot of games from that era felt kind of clunky in a way.
Well,
especially if you go back and play them now.
Yeah,
They'll feel slow.
it's like I found System Shock 2 felt a bit like that for me as well.
it did, but it was like, I found that as well with System Shock 2, but I got used to it, and it became like a quirk almost.
Yeah, I think one of the bonuses of a game sort of feeling a bit kind of clunky to handle in a way is, like, if it's a game that sort of is trying to instill a sense of fear into you, like a survival horror and that kind of thing, it kind of works for that because you sort of feel more vulnerable in respect to that. Like all the old Resident Evil games, for instance, where you had to kind of move in a kind of weird way and Galarians and stuff. It just I don't know. It's just one of those things where, on the one hand, yeah, it kind of adds the sense of fear, but on the other hand, it's bloody annoying.
Saying what you're saying about what makes a game good, I love Deus Ex Human Revolution. Everything about that just seemed to work. Soundtrack, the way the game handled, everything worked, and I loved it. It's a brilliant game, and I'm looking forward to Mankind Divided. I don't know about, are you?
I'd probably need to play through Human Revolution first.
You've not played Human Revolution?
Oh, come on.
You are this massive proponent on how amazing Deus Ex is, and you haven't played Human Revolution.
No.
That's your task for this week. Next time we ask you what you've done during the week, you need to say, I finished Human Revolution and I fucking loved it.
I never asked for this.
You only know about that because of all the internet memes.
That's the very first thing I knew about that game.
So other than not playing Human Revolution, what have you been doing this week?
Well, I have been playing mostly Dyad again. Sort of, to be honest, as like you, Pete, I've been quite sort of busy with work. I'd often just come home, have something to eat, and then go straight to bed. But on the off chance I do have some time for other activities, mainly they've just been playing Dyad. I've found myself recently, possibly, as I said, due to what's been going on with work, etc., not being able to get into, unquote, serious game. So I just sort of like to pick up something, have a bit of an arcade blast, and then put it down again.
I've found that recently as well, with obviously us all pretty much having full-time jobs now. I don't really get a whole lot of time for games, and I find that rather than playing new games, I seem to be going back to games that I've played before, because I have so little time to play them, I kind of want the guarantee that I'm going to enjoy them. So I find myself going back to games that I've played before and I know that I've enjoyed, rather than trying anything new. It's something I've sort of become aware of recently, and I am trying to break that mold. So hopefully this week I'm looking at starting something new. I might give BioShock another go, but I'm open to any suggestions, of course.
Yeah, I mean, BioShock is one of those games where it's a bit of a slow starter, but like once you're into it, you're into it. But it takes a little while to get into. But yeah, I mean, if/when you get through Bioshock, I recommend Bioshock Infinite and its expansions as well afterwards.
Yes.
2 you can take or leave. I enjoyed
Yes.
2, but it's not canon and it's not necessary for the lore of the whole story.
But the DLC for Infinite ties everything up really nicely, and I think you will really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's it's. Well, I can't really add to that actually. I'm just
No.
going to stop.
Yeah, you can't add nothing without spoiling anything, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's my turn. So this week I got the newly released Fast Racing Neo for the Wii U. It's on the eShop. It's a Wii U exclusive, which I wish it was on every other platform just so that more people could play it. It's really good. It feels kind of like Wipeout / F-Zero, but it's got like this kind of mechanic in it that kind of reminds me of Ikaruga. Have any of you guys played Ikaruga?
Yes.
Very briefly.
I have, yes.
Yeah. So there's
hard.
a mechanic in Ikaruga. Ikaruga, just for anyone who doesn't know, is like a kind of bullet hell shooting game where you've got all these targets coming towards you, like R-Type, that kind of thing. But you can switch between being a black ship or a white ship, and if you're a black ship, then you absorb like black sort of energy blast from the enemies, and that builds up your sort of energy, and vice versa with white enemies and white blasts. And like if you're white, I think it does more damage to the black enemies, and if you're black, it does more damage to the white enemies, that kind of thing. And it's Fast Racing Neo has a similar kind of thing where you switch between blue and orange, and you got like these speed pads that you go over, and if you're blue on a blue speed pad, you go faster. If you're orange on an orange speed pad, you go faster. But if you're the opposite colour, it slows you down.
Sounds a lot like Tron with the colours.
Yeah, it kind of has a sort of Tron-like aesthetic to it with the kind of glowiness of the ship and everything. And the way it handles feels very sort of much more like F-Zero than Wipeout, but the ships kind of look a little bit Wipeout-like in terms of the aesthetic. But I don't know, there seems to be a kind of missing gap in the market for these kind of... I think they're called AG racing games, I'm not really sure. Like... Liverpool Studios, formerly known as Psygnosis, have been disbanded, so there's not going to be another Wipeout game. However, there is that Formula Fusion game that's being worked on by some of the people that used to work with Liverpool Studios. That's in early access on Steam at the moment. And
Which I've got, and at the moment there's no weapons, it's just all out speed, and pretty good so far.
yeah, from what I can tell of what I've read on the reviews, it's still very basic and bare bones because they're still getting a lot of content done. And apparently the studios had some difficulties as well that they've mentioned about on the Steam page, but they're still working on it. Which, for the sake of the Kickstarter backers, I should hope so.
Well, it's going to be the spiritual successor to Wipeout, really, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, it seems to be a lot of that at the moment in gaming, like the spiritual successors and like kind of rebooting all these franchises. I mean, like System Shock 3 apparently is confirmed, but not confirmed at the moment. There's been some conflicting reports about that online. Yeah, I mean, you read a bit about that a little while ago, Pete, didn't you?
I read a little bit about it. To be honest, I don't know anything really about System Shock. I've never played any of the games, and Alex is probably going to hate me for that because he loves System Shock 2. He bought a brand new PC just to play System Shock 2.
Yeah.
Yep. When I built my new PC, actually the very first game I played was Half-Life 2, just so I could
getting a bit modern. Is that too modern for you, Alex?
Oh yeah, that was
Sounds
as
like
it was modern as I wanted to go, and then the second game was System Shock 2. I got myself stuck into on a rig that was obviously far more capable. I play games from yesteryear.
At least they run well, though.
Oh yes, I
Yeah.
hope so.
This is the man who's got GTA 5 and can run it nicely on his PC, yet he likes playing these old 80s games.
I wouldn't say nicely. My PC struggles with that.
Oh yeah, I think you got the GTX 660, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's the 660 Ti Wind Force.
Huh.
Yeah, it's some. I don't know if it's some kind of overclocked variant or what.
I think the
Yeah.
Windforce series just seem to have better coolers on them, so you can get higher overclocks if you wanted to overclock them.
I think that is it. It's just like it relates to the fans on it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even my GTX 770 is starting to struggle with a lot of games now. It's really annoying.
As we learned last week, my 7950 is struggling with games because it's got a hardware fault. So,
Oh.
annoyingly enough, it's getting to the point where I don't know whether to replace it or not because it plays most games on full settings well. It's just really hardcore games like Just Cause 3 and that are really demanding that seem to trigger this hardware bug. I think it's sort of with the very last bits of memory on the card.
Yeah, but then Just Cause 3 is buggy as hell anyway. I mean, that's an unfinished mess.
But we fixed that issue last week, didn't we? So we talked about that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we were talking about System Shock 3, so yeah, it's kind of a bit vague as to whether it's actually definitely coming or not. It's really weird. But
How many times can they keep bringing back the AI?
the AI?
Look at you, hacker, running through my hallways.
Oh, what show then? Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, the company that are making it as well, they kind of specialize in bringing back old franchises as well. But it's just like, I don't know. It seems like so many companies just cashing in on nostalgia at the moment.
Well, it's kind of a safe bet. They'd much rather do something that they know a lot of people will buy out of nostalgia than come up with a whole new game series that they don't know if anybody's going to be actually interested in.
Yeah. Well, kind of like how you were saying that you sort of play games you know that are good because you've not got much time.
Yeah.
So, it's a safe investment kind
It's
of
a
thing
safe
of your
bet.
time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like so many of these kind of remakes. It's just kind of getting a bit boring now because a lot of them are just kind of put them through a HD filter and then just push them back out. Like Final Fantasy X and X-2, for instance, were that, and all these HD collections that were on the PS3 and 360 that weren't even full HD anyway. It's just I don't know. I mean, from what you played of System Shock 2, Alex, what do you think about the idea of a System Shock 3 coming? What do you think would be a sort of good thing to bring to this?
I'm a bit tentative towards this one. It's a not sure if want.
Yeah. And the fact it's not the original development team, even though they're still around, I think.
Yeah. Again, that can be a bit of a issue with a game when a different team takes on, as a particular franchise and puts their spin on things. The thing that comes to mind straight away is the Crash Bandicoot series.
Oh, God.
Yeah, whilst I won't say that the later games after Crash Bandicoot 3 are bad games, they're definitely different. As I remember Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, that's where that whole thing of like you sort of take an intellectual property and kind of do a safe bet on that, but at the same time you change it so much that it's not really true to the roots of that said intellectual property. So it might as well just be a different franchise in some ways.
It's just using a very popular franchise or icon, as you say, and just milking it.
Yeah, Sonic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. I even believe the company behind this rumoured System Shock 3 release, I think they even tout themselves, I'll obviously need to have a citation, they either tout themselves or they are touted by other people as specialising in remaking popular franchises of yesteryear.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I just mentioned a moment ago. Like, that was on, I can't remember which website it was on. I think it might have been their own website I looked at. It was a few days ago I looked this up, but I've looked up quite a few different articles about this. There's some that have said, no, it's not happening. There's others that have said, yeah, it is. But on their own website, it was kind of vague. But there is a countdown on the website as well.
Yeah, there's a website everyone points to where it's just a black background with an S and a countdown on it, and the countdown, as of now, it ends in about 1 day and 12 hours. So I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
But it's been a weird year for like all these kind of, I don't know, all these big intellectual properties to come back. I mean, there was that Shenmue 3 announcement back at E3 as well.
That was more, I think, brought back by force from the fans than anything else, really. That was a very demanded game.
Yeah. Well, just like Final Fantasy 7 as well.
Oh.
Indeed.
Oh.
Yet another game I haven't actually ever played before.
No.
I might get a lot of hate for this, but Final Fantasy's not really my sort of game.
No, it's not everyone's cup of tea, to be fair. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, a lot of people that were sort of playing games around that time were sort of either Final Fantasy or Zelda, although you were neither at the time.
Yeah, I wasn't really that big into games as a child. I sort of had a PS1 near the end of its life cycle, but I definitely wasn't that heavily into video games as I am now.
Yeah, see, a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this, but I prefer Final Fantasy 9 to 7. So
I'm with you on that one.
Well, mention about episodic games. 7's going episodic.
yeah,
I'm
at
not sure it's good.
the moment we're kind of being drip fed information about it. So, like, admittedly, I might be a bit assumptive about some of what they're doing with this, but I'm a bit concerned, really. Like, some of the arguments that they've put forward in favour of it going episodic is they're saying that A, they want to make sure that all of the content of the game is put into it, which, to be fair, like, why can't they do that in the first place anyway? But what that says to me is they're unsure if it's going to sell enough to warrant the investment that they want to put into it, which, sounds like a budgetary issue more than anything else. But considering the popularity of Final Fantasy VII overall, I would have thought they would have had more confidence in the ability for it to sell. So I don't know what's going on with that. And apparently the other reason is that they can't fit into a single release, which, when you consider they've got 50 gigabyte Blu-rays now, that just doesn't wash with me. And especially when you look at big scale games that are fitting onto these 50 gig Blu-rays, like Grand Theft Auto 5, Fallout 4, hell, Skyrim fit onto a single DVD. You know what I mean? I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Possibly they're just buying themselves time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what this just smells is cash cow. What they're going to do is they're just basically going to get the season passes sold, and then they're just going to end up, hopefully, maybe finishing it. To me, it says that they're not confident that it's going to sell enough to warrant them working on it.
Well, you got to remember, one of the benefits of episodic content is that we get the games quicker, and we also get them, obviously that would be cheaper, but, it worked out really well for the Half-Life series of games.
But that is the problem, isn't it? It might not ever be finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. It just seems to be this thing of, hey, let's just find a way to get everyone's money now and then maybe finish the game later. I mean, as we covered with Just Cause 3 last week, they got everyone's money, but they didn't finish the game properly. And it's just more and more things are just happening like that with games now.
I hope they don't start EA at logo. Oh, you don't want this character? You got to pay for him.
Yeah, exactly. Because two of the characters that you can get into the party in your game... Three?
Yeah, there's 3 actually optional.
Right. Oh, bloody hell. I managed to get one of them every time. I didn't even realise they were optional. We're trying to keep this vague, even though it's like a 20-year-old game.
Yeah.
But
because like I said, there's some people still haven't played it.
I think you can probably count on me not playing it.
yeah. Even still, that's... But anyway, yes, I'm just wondering, like, if they're going to end up being DLC characters and...
Please no. Please no.
Yeah, and what about the Golden Saucer? There's these credit things that you get on there as well for... I think it was to get a Golden Chocobo, if I remember correctly, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh God, it took me so long to get that Chocobo.
Yeah, so things like that, I'm just wondering if you have to spend real money to get in-game credit and things like that.
And the battle system.
Yeah,
I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh dear.
Yeah, from the gameplay that they've shown, which was only about half a minute to a minute, it's been changed to kind of action-based battle system. It looks somewhere like a cross between Crisis Core and Kingdom Hearts, which
could work. Could work.
Yeah,
but with games like that, I preferred the turn-based because it made you strategize. It made you think.
A bit like it's obviously a sort of a more HD, nicer looking graphics version of the Tales of games, for instance, like Tales of Symphonia, etc., etc.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
That was sort of like I suppose you could call it real time. It wasn't turn based. He was sort of running around doing things at the same time, but it was also had RPG elements.
Yeah. But yeah, on top of that as well, apparently they're doing some tweaks to the story, but I reckon it's probably going to be bits of extra... I'm not too concerned about that, because I reckon with that it's going to be bits of extra content to fit in with all the spin-offs, like Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, Advent Children, all that stuff. I reckon it's going to be references to some of that. Well, obviously not Advent Children, because that's further on in the timeline.
Or Dirge of Cerberus.
Yeah, but that kind of thing, like... but, I don't know, with the whole episodic thing, the original release wasn't episodic... And on top of that, it was all released as one thing.
3 CDs.
Exactly. I don't know. It concerns me. I just don't think it's a good move for them.
What do you think on, as you mentioned before, it seems to be a growing trend with several games developers to release certain elements that you would normally just unlock in a game through playing it as DLC. How about this situation where you can pay to unlock them, but you can also unlock them for free by playing the game?
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, that. But then at the same time, a lot of that is kind of they make it a major slog and grind fest. Like Dead Space 3 is one of the sort of popular examples that has been referred to. As doing that kind of thing where you can get this extra stuff, but it makes it a grind fest, and essentially it's just kind of a test of your patience to sort of really entice you into paying for it, and it gets to the point where it stops being fun when it's when it's just a slog and grind fest like that.
I mean, I was more thinking about an extra character. For instance, if you consider in the bog standard game, you could find this character and recruit them to your party, but it was quite secretive of how you had to do it, and you had to do certain things early on in the game, do this, that, and the other. Pay
Take the
attention.
fun about it.
Yeah, but you could do that normally, but then pay to have it just there and then. It's sort of
It takes the fun because
It depends on how it's executed.
When I was a kid, there was none of this like online streaming stuff. It was you bought the game, you played the game, you had to do it yourself. Now I don't like pay to win. Pay to win should be banned outright because it's stupid and it takes away from the experience, and it makes games too easy to complete. And
well, you say it should be banned, but as with anything, the popularity is based on people liking it and wanting it. So unfortunately,
well, it's not people want it. It's I can't be bothered to actually try and get better at this game,
well,
so I'm just going to pay to get the best thing.
Well, it really depends on people's different play styles. Because obviously, you say it takes the fun out of it if you've got to grind for things, but some people really like that. They really appreciate being able to put the time into something, the skill of finding out how to do it and unlocking something.
Yeah.
And then you have other people as well that they feel they don't have the time or they don't have the skill, and allowing them to pay for it in some way is saying, well, we've made this content and we're going to make it accessible in different ways. So if you wanna do it the hard way, if you want to do it through the game, spend a lot of time on it, that's great. But if maybe you just want to pay a little bit extra and experience his content, and why shouldn't you be able to experience content that other people do?
Well, that's why I'm saying it depends on the execution of it and how they go about doing it. Like, if it's just doing the same repetitive task over and over and over again, and where it's just kind of basically making it a chore more than a fun gameplay experience, that's the issue I have.
You know how games used to do this? They used to have difficulty settings.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that Deus Ex Revolution, I have actually played a little bit of it. One of the settings is called "Tell Me a Story," and that is such a good example of, you just want to experience the story, but you might be new to video games, you're not very good, so it doesn't punish you for not being good enough to actually be able to go through and complete the game that you've paid for. For instance, I think there was a quote by Dermot O'Leary. He said something along the lines of, when you buy a book, you have the entire book and you can read through it at your own pace. You can read it backwards and forwards. Well, he didn't say that, but that's me. In other words, I think he was mentioning Gears of War or something, and he said that there's a point where you meet a boss and it's very difficult and he didn't know what to do or how to complete it, and then he realised that there was some elements that were introduced early on in the game that you had to sort of implement to try and beat this boss. And he felt that the game was sort of giving him a test, a quiz on everything he'd learned up until this point before he was allowed to progress and see the rest of the story. So, in a way, you could argue that it is penalising people who are not that au fait with video games.
Isn't that like part of the challenge and part of the fun of the game? Like, is working out what to do, like a puzzle solving thing. It's like, imagine if in Portal, where you got to sort of work out the puzzles and that, it was just like, hey, just fire it here. Hey, just fire it here. Oh, look, you're on the next level.
Possibly. I think, there is a bit of a difference. I know where you're coming from when you say that, but I think there is a difference between a puzzle-based thing and a skill-based thing. A puzzle-based thing, you can sort of just, easily find the solution, say, just do this, and this.
But then a boss fight is kind of a puzzle in a way, working out the weak spot.
It is, yes, but I would argue that there are instances where it's more skill-based, where they can say, well, this is what you have to do to beat the boss, but it could still be quite difficult to execute that. Whereas in a puzzle game, there is a skill element in Portal. I have to admit, you have to sort of fire it at the certain times. But if it's more of a logic puzzle, then it's quite easy just to go on YouTube or on the internet and say, right, what you need to do is go into this room before you press this button, this, that, and the other, etc.,
And
etc.
then puzzle solving is a skill in of itself as well.
I think the issue with that is saying that games shouldn't do that. Is that there are plenty of games out there, like you say, Human Revolution, where you can put it on a really easy mode. We shouldn't be saying that you can't. I don't think games where you have to have a certain level of skill to get past boss fights are a bad thing. If you don't like that kind of game, then don't buy it, don't play it.
I think
Whereas
the issue
people who
is-
want the channel, if people who want the challenge, if you get rid of that sort of game or make it like just press this button, do the boss fight, then that's detrimental to them. And the point of the games as a medium now is there's such a different variety of things that you can pretty much get any gameplay that you want. You can range from sort of the graphic novel type of thing to something like Ikaruga or something, which is very hard compared to the majority of games. So there is a wide variety of things for you to choose from for your play style.
I think the problem is with a game like Ikaruga, generally you know what you're in for when you buy a certain game like that. You know it's going to be very, very hard. But with a game like, I don't know, Deus Ex or Gears of War, you start playing through the game and you're having fun. And yes, it's challenging, but you get through. But then you hit a sticking point where it's just so insanely difficult and you can't get past it. I don't know. Some people might feel that they've spent all this money for something they didn't realise they would never be able to see the end of.
But then you get that with any medium, really. I mean, it's like saying that you paid X amount to watch a film and realised you didn't like it. It's like, well, you could have looked up, but you've got to take the chance with all of this sort of stuff, really.
Speaking about DLC, I'm playing Need for Speed Most Wanted. We're driving along, minding your own business, and see a car. Go, oh, I want to be in that car now. Oh wait, it's DLC. Why is it even there?
It's taunting you, isn't it? It's just like a tantalising thing. This actually brings me on to a very sensitive topic.
So I don't mind when you start the game up or before you go into it, going, buy this DLC. Why not try this DLC? And that sort of thing. But I don't want it to be in the game distract me. Thinking, oh, I can drive that car.
I think
no, I can't.
it can be quite annoying at times, especially when you find a car that you like. But apart from that system, I think Need for Speed does DLC very well, actually.
Yeah.
Because you can play and enjoy the entire game without touching your wallet again.
Yeah.
Without buying the DLC. The DLC is nicer cars, and that's it. And it's just a way of saying, hey, you really like this
too.
Yeah, it's like saying you really like this game. You can give us a bit more money, and we can give you a bit more of the game. But you're not missing out on anything. It's not like. But I think it kind of is that kind of game. It's a racing game. There's no real story behind it. So you're not blocking off parts of the story because they're not able to do that. But it's a very good method of doing it. Saying, hey, if you don't want to pay us any extra money, that's fine. You've got a really good game here. But you can give us more money. You can get more of this good game and help support us.
But EA really messed up with a game I love, Mass Effect. But then again, I could see where they were going with it. Some people might say differently, but because there was a lot of hate for the ending of 3, but they could have gone a different way with it if people had calmed down a little bit and thought about it a little more and thinking, what was this ending? Was it a real ending or was it something else? But yeah, leave that alone.
Possibly they could have. They could have done a bit more market research, as I sort of perhaps hinted at before about the choices you make being moot. Won't say any more, but I'll leave it at that because I could spoil things. Actually, just getting back to the point of DLC, one game that I feel is sort of it's quite indicative to this the whole changing landscape of games and such, that I think this actually did DLC quite well in a very sort of strange and unique way, is Team Fortress 2. And
Want to buy some hats?
Exactly, it's hats and guns. Well, this is the thing. Apparently, it's quite balanced, so you can buy extra things and this, that, and the other, and buy other items, and then use those to craft other stuff. I don't know. I'm so out of the loop.
Yeah.
I played Team Fortress 2 when it was a paid-for game, and there wasn't any of this, around. And since then, it became free to play, so you don't pay anything to play the game, and you can have quite a fun time just as it is. But all of these extra DLCs is quite clever what Valve have done. it doesn't really give you much of an advantage. It's more of personalised customization of your character, as Pete alluded to, like hats and costumes and guns and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
There's even things like sort of cross-platform incentives. I think that if you, I don't know, do certain things, you can receive a hat from another game or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just basically, we're in a situation now where we're in a bit of a tricky economy, and people are sort of thinking more and more about what they spend their money on. And we're sort of used to the whole thing of we buy a game, that's our game, it's complete kind of thing. And like now we're sort of in a sort of period where all this downloadable stuff is basically getting people in the mind frame of, well, there's all that stuff over there, so is my game not complete? And in some instances, that is the case, unfortunately. There are a lot of developers that do really take liberties with that kind of thing.
I think that the tide is starting to turn from what I can see. I think they've had their period where they've done like the Alan Wake of insert money to finish game.
Yeah.
You don't get the end of the game unless you buy the DLC. They've had that sort of period where they've done that because nobody expected it. And now that they've done it enough that people have started to expect it, they're starting to go back on that. So actually, I think we're starting to see a bit of a negative effect when we do that because people are aware that we're doing that now. Maybe we shouldn't do that as much because people are going to find out. People are now looking for that before they buy the game. Yeah. And I think also it's a way of sort of nobody gets everything right at the first time, really. So I think it's also a way of them saying, okay, well, we tried out a few different methods. We've seen people's reactions to things. I mean, a lot of it, of course, is what can we get away with. Yeah. But it's very much evolved to a point now where it's starting to be done right by a lot of people.
I think it's a Coke Classic tactic. Basically, it's a case of, let's do this really annoying, bad thing, and then basically we'll go back to how it was before, and then people will praise us for basically going back to how it was before. It's like the 180 that Microsoft pulled with the Xbox One and everything. And like that convention, that E3 where Sony were like, yeah, you can still play used games. People were like, oh my god, Sony are so amazing, when all they're doing is the same thing they'd already been doing.
It's the contrast, isn't it?
Exactly. It's basically games developers are being praised now for doing things that they should have been doing all along. And it's getting to the point now where games developers are going to start getting praised for a game being properly optimized and finished on release.
This is very sad because it's basically everyone who already knows basically all these liberties and things we're used to. When they suddenly get taken away, it's really shitty. For instance, if you imagine a metaphorical situation, I don't know, you walk into a room and you're wading through, 6 inches of shit, and you think, well, this is horrible. And everyone sitting in the room is looking at you as if you are just, you're crazy and you're stupid. And they sort of think, oh, what's the problem? What's he on about? And you're looking back and thinking, what the hell is this? Why is there like 6 inches of shit in the living room? And everyone's looking at you thinking, this is how it's always been, And then you take away the shit, and they probably think, wow, what? This is different. They probably wouldn't know how to react. And then after a week or so, they'd probably think this is the best thing in the world.
I think what the problem is we, as gamers, grew up as kids with buying the PS1 games and had complete games. And now we're seeing these unfinished release games that get patched afterwards.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I sometimes wonder if the internet was one of the worst things to happen to gaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, the worry is with people who grow up with these things. For instance, if you imagine, I don't know, fresh generation of gamers growing up not being able to share their games, they'd grow up thinking that's the normal.
Yeah.
They wouldn't question it. Whereas us, when we're old and jaded, from an era as Adam says, you bought a game and it was complete and you could borrow it and you could have friends over, blah 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 blah. We see that as being taken away from us. It's deprivation. Whereas a generation that would grow up never knowing it would be privated, which wouldn't be as worse in a way.
Can you say that kids spend all their time indoors on their Xboxes, PlayStations, playing with their friends online, doing it through the internet? So I do it with my friends now. But when I was a kid, you had to have your friends over, because you couldn't do it via the internet because it wasn't really a thing.
As Terry might say, the specificity of the medium has changed the game.
Yeah, it's like all these games companies. They just want to basically make. It's like all these games companies that basically want to make the next esports game. You know, we're seeing Halo 5 without any split screen, for instance, because of the fact that they want to try and make that an esports game. So, and apparently the campaign is only really short, like about 5-6 hours or something like that.
That all?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly.
Well, it's like the last few COD games as well, where it's single player. Oh, that's in there somewhere.
Yeah, although to be fair to the COD games, at least they kept split screen going.
But then, on the contrary to that, I noticed there's a lot more games coming out for PC now that are multiplayer split screen. If you look at things sort of like Rocket League and things like that, 10 years ago, you had one person and one PC and that was it. And now there are so many more games for people who want to get a couple of people around a PC and not have to have separate PCs. So I think
what helps with that is being able to plug your PC into your TV. So instead of having a little 19-inch monitor, you can use your 50-inch plasma.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's that big movement around getting TVs in the living room now. And on top of that, I think one thing...
I've had a TV in my living room for a while now.
Yeah, same here.
PC and you know what I mean. But on top of that as well, I think one thing that helps with that is the fact that indie development is such a big thing at the moment, and all these areas where the AAA industry is just like, oh, that's not a big cash cow anymore. You know, like the pocket change of the industry, the indies want to pick that up.
I think it's definitely changed, and I think as well as the big companies have learnt from what indie developers have tried and failed, and also tried and succeeded over the past 5 or 10 years. They've sort of started learning from that. So, I think the games industry is obviously constantly evolving, but I think most of the negative parts, like really crappy DLC and stuff like that, I think that just mainly comes from the fact that they didn't really know how to do it. And so they tried something out, and that a lot of companies aren't doing it now. So you'll say, "Oh my God, they're making all this terrible," but they're still trying. Like Steam. Steam was crap when it first came out. It was absolutely awful, and it's just because they hadn't done it before. They needed to try a lot of different things and try and make it good. And then they were able to, and now you look back and say, "Oh no, Steam's amazing. Steam's amazing." It's like, well, yeah, but it wasn't.
Customer support.
Yeah, just
they're
working on that, but it's like saying, "Oh my goodness, DLC was crap," and it's always going to be crap. Well, no, it's not, because now they're realizing that people are voting with their wallets, and even like pre-orders and stuff. Now, I think the general consensus is that people are pre-ordering less because they know that things like Just Cause 3 happen, where they'll pay £40 for the game on launch, and it won't be playable until the patch 6 months later, when the game's like £20 in the bargain bin or whatever.
But then a way that they're securing investment now with season passes, like that's one of the big things that's going to staying strong in the industry right now.
I remember when a season pass was, you get all of the DLC that's ever going to come out for this game. And then I can't remember what game it was, but it was, do you want to buy the season pass? You get 50% off all the DLC for a year.
Yeah.
So, well, that's not really a season pass then, is it?
And the season passes are so expensive now. They're like £35. That's as much as the game, pretty much.
But it's like an Xbox subscription just for that game, and it doesn't give you any benefits.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people are getting these season passes as well, and they're basically paying double the price of the initial game. So it's to get the complete version of the game, they're paying double what they used to pay.
Is it people buying the games, or the parents buying it for the kids? That propagates this sort of culture.
Yeah.
I don't know if my parents would understand a season pass for a game.
Never would mine.
So you get to play the game for a year, then they take it off you.
What is it? My parents barely know how to use a
bizarre.
laptop, let alone anything else. So
I feel old because it seems such a bizarre and alien concept to me.
What amuses me is like game editions that come out a year later, formerly known as Game of the Year editions. A lot of them now are being called Ultimate Edition or Complete Edition.
Or definitive.
Complete Edition
I
is
think
the thing that
some of that
amuses
stems
me.
from the fact that you had games that came out sort of like on the PS3 and the 360, and then they came out near the start of the life. And then they came out near the end of the life cycle, and it was, this is Game of the Year edition. It includes all the DLC. And then they go, well, we kind of want to re-release it for the PS4 and the Xbone, So we can't really call that Game of the Year. We have to come up with a new name for that as well. So we'll call it the Definitive Edition or like the Maximum Edition or whatever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, with that, there's a graphical update, so that kind of makes sense. But when they sort of release it as complete edition, it's basically them admitting that the original version isn't complete, that they released, that people paid like £50 for.
I don't know. It depends. Cause complete can also mean that you get the game and you get all of the DLC as well in the complete edition. So it's the complete pack almost. It's like buying like a trilogy of books. You get the complete book where it's all 3 books in one. It doesn't mean that the books themselves individually weren't finished.
It might be a bit ambiguous if they called it the Ultimate Package Edition.
Oh, we are immature.
Oh yes, very.
But yes, getting back to the evolution of Steam, I'd say it's definitely probably the most mature client out there. And
Well, it's been around for so long. It
is.
And a lot of these other clients are getting a bit of a bad rap because obviously they're still new and developing.
Again, Origins is still new, but their customer feedback basis is a lot better than any of the other ones out there.
Was it Uplay? Yeah, it was Uplay.
Uplay
is another one by Ubisoft, and that actually quite surprised me because I've been a bit sort of towards Ubisoft, based on a few of the things they've done, like Sim City.
That was EA.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah, that's EA.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
don't you feel like an idiot now?
In fact, well, then I sort of I respect Ubisoft even more now.
I think Ubisoft has done that. There is the Uplay launcher, and the only thing about the Uplay launcher is you go and start a game in Steam and go, I want to play Splinter Cell Conviction. Boom. Okay, you just got to open up Uplay. Blah 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 blah. Okay, no, open up Uplay and you can play the game. So okay, then well, I'm going to start Uplay then and launch it from Uplay without having to bother starting Steam. So you start Uplay and click on Splinter Cell Conviction. And it goes, okay, I'm just going to start Steam for you.
What?
And then you have to wait for Steam to start, and then you'll play the game.
That is very annoying.
But on the other hand, as far as I can see, Uplay does have, I think it does sort of game saving as well. So when I've got games that aren't in Steam, I think Far Cry 3. That's from Ubisoft, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got the disc copy. I haven't got the Steam copy. So Uplay is really handy for that because it means I can log on. I can actually just download it now rather than to put the disc in. It does all the save management and stuff. And Uplay does some really nice stuff, like you get Uplay points from doing things in games. It's sort of like Steam achievements, but you get points that you can spend on stuff like
exactly. Yeah.
And you can spend it on things like the soundtracks for the games, like wallpapers from the games. You can spend it on things that would typically be DLC, sort of new outfits for people in the games, and I think there's even like a weapons packs and stuff for Splinter Cell. I'm not.
It's
not
such
100%
a radical
sure.
thought, isn't it? Rewarding the player for playing the game.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not even big rewards. It's not like they're saying, "Hey, you get this whole new level or whatever." Although, actually, I think for Far Cry 3, there are a couple of missions that you can unlock just from Uplay points.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a really nice way of getting people engaged and playing the game for a bit longer and saying, "Oh, I've got these extra things to do." And it's not just an achievement list like in Steam. I actually get extra things in the game that I can do after doing it.
It's a bit like a digital version of you go to the arcade amusement machine and get little tickets out, and you can win prizes for the tickets.
Yeah. So, Trials Evolution, you get with Uplay, you get like different helmets, and one of them is a giant squirrel head. It's nothing that does anything in game, but it's a fun little thing. If you fall off, you see your guy bouncing down the track with this giant squirrel head on. It's just a little thing like that that makes the game a little bit more interesting, but it's fun.
That's the thing. I think a really good business model for keeping your game relevant is just if it's an online game, like GTA Online does this really well, just keep adding little freebies that people just keep going back to your game for, and then if you want to get some paid content, do a full-on expansion, and if people have been coming back to your game repeatedly for this free content, then chances are they'll be interested in that content too. That's the thing. You need to keep your game relevant, and you're not going to keep your game relevant by constantly charging people. Sometimes you need to drip feed people some stuff for free so that they keep going back to it on a weekly basis.
Or to entice them in the first place.
The next DLC for GTA 5 Online is come out soon. Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it's basically it's a luxury. The new DLC is like a massive luxury yacht.
That's the Executive and Criminals pack, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice. But yeah, no, I think that's a really good way of enticing people to just like keep playing a game online. I mean, I think it's like the fourth most played game on Steam as well, so that's a good way to keep a community going. I mean, with all the esports kind of things that are just sort of not doing it so well at the moment, that are just kind of basically being, hey, we're multiplayer, come play us, and not giving people a reason why. Like, I think that's a really good way of going about it. Just kind of give the players something. I mean, like, yesterday, I actually noticed Shadow Complex has actually been remastered for PC, and
Really?
it's free.
Love that game.
It's free over the holidays, but the thing is, to download it, you have to download this Epic Games launcher, which is like another client. Yep, I know, another client.
Adding to the growing list of
It's not long.
various
It's just
clients.
growing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to have loads and loads of these clients installed on my PC, but like, I can't sort of say I'm against it because I feel like I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I was, because I'm so in favour of Steam. But for me to say, oh, I really wish that company wouldn't have a client, like, I think it's a double standard I'd be presenting.
It aids in competition as well. I mean, it's kind of annoying that if you want certain games, like if you want EA games, you have to go and use Origin, which in itself is kind of annoying. That's mainly because Steam does like sales really well and stuff. But I mean, Origin's quite good. Like Origin they give out free games I think it's like once a week, isn't it? There's a new free game.
It's once a month.
Once a month, and they're not brand new games. They're sort of things like Theme Hospital and stuff. But I mean, who doesn't love Theme Hospital?
This month's one is Jade Empire.
Yeah, and another thing I think as well is like people are like, yay, Steam are doing refunds. EA were doing refunds way before that on Origin, so I think that's kind of sort of set the bar a little bit for that kind of thing. So, like you say about competition, it's
There's nothing wrong with competition because it only improves
exactly
your relationship with a particular client.
But
like, I've got Steam, Origins, you play.
But like what you guys said before about Uplay and Steam having that kind of double thing going, I think that's poor implementation. I think like if a Ubisoft game is on Steam, it should just run through Steam, and if it's on Uplay, it should just run through Uplay. Like just kind of sort of set up two separate versions, kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, all it is a launcher.
It's something I haven't actually tried. I know I can download my my Far Cry 3. I can download that from Uplay. So I haven't actually tried. Like I know my Splinter Cell Conviction is a Steam copy. I've not tried downloading that through Uplay and seeing if it runs as a Uplay only copy. So I might have to try that.
Yeah, worth a go.
Actually, there is one good thing that can become of more and more separate clients arising, and I think it's as you mentioned, the competition. But it's mainly that new things that other manufacturers trial in their clients sort of influence other manufacturers in a way.
Definitely. I mean, like the thing that you said about earlier on Uplay, the whole thing where you get the rewards and you get tangible, usable things as unlockables. I miss unlockables in games in general.
Yeah.
I really do.
Don't Steam are doing trading cards, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's not something I'm a big fan of, but it's not something I'm really against either. It's just kind of one of those things that's there to me, but...
Oh, yes, the whole Steam community and the levels and the trading cards and the whatever is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, I've not been keeping track of any of that on my personal Steam. I don't know about you guys.
I know I've got some cards and they're all worth like 10p each or something to somebody. But other than that, I'm not really bothered by that sort of thing.
I spent about half an hour one night just putting a load of my cards on sale, and then I had like a couple of quid, and then I used that for a DLC pack in Counter-Strike Go.
I might do that at some point, but then I'm kind of the opposite with Steam's their whole like fostering community stuff. Like most of the time, I'll have Steam chat turned off because if I'm starting Steam, it's because I want to play a game. If I want to talk to people, I'll pick up the phone or I'll go on Skype. If I want to play a game, I'll start Steam, and then you're just about to play a game, and then your friend's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" It's like, well, I've got a controller in my hand. I can't talk to you, and I'm trying to beat this boss. I don't want to. I don't want to talk to you.
It's handy for multiplayer games, though, for matchmaking.
It is, and it actually comes up with Peter Bunyan is now playing this game. So if anyone's talking to you, excessively, then they're being a dick because they can see you in a game.
Yeah.
It also tells you what game you're playing. See if you're playing something like Splinter Cell Conviction, you obviously don't want anyone speaking to you because you've got a big control in the game. Whereas if you're playing a multiplayer game like GTA 5 or COD, sometimes it's good to be able to talk to your teammates to coordinate and attack or defend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then to
secretly.
be fair, like if it's people you play regularly with, you should be using headsets because otherwise it's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quicker just to sort of use your voice, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Hey, let's start typing to each other, guys.
Oh, and then let's text each other, even though we're all in the same room.
This is the point of the
Oh.
podcast where you just switch to just hearing keystrokes and nothing else.
We'll start doing Morse code.
Well, you wouldn't even hear that with modern smartphones. You just sort of see like grubby, greasy fingers tapping on Gorilla Glass.
I don't know about you, but I wash my hands.
Yeah, I think you speak from your own experience there, not the experience of others.
I can't help my skin.
Don't put us in with you. We're not all like you,
All right,
Alex.
guys, let's chill. We're starting to bully him a bit.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Oh.
It's going to be excessive.
Okay,
isn't
that
it?
means we like him, doesn't it?
Yes.
You can't see this, but Adam's stroking him in reassurance right
No,
now.
I'm not. I'm nowhere near him. Plus, I don't know.
Stop it,
I
Adam,
don't,
stop it.
What were we just talking
I
about?
don't know what I'd be stroking.
We were talking about something to do with video games, I think. Was
Yes,
that-
we were.
No, we would never speak about that, would we?
we were talking about chatting games and things like that.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, I'm quite glad that there's all the Steam Friends thing and things like that, just for setting this kind of thing up. I mean, obviously, Steam Friends didn't start that. Before that, there was Xfire. In fact, I think even Xbox Live's own matchmaking thing, where you could like just press join game, that kind of thing, predated
Oh, yes,
Steam's utilization of such
Yeah.
features.
Not forgetting GameSpy Arcade.
Oh god! Although I'm a bit annoyed about GameSpy Arcade because that's gone in its history now, and as a result, the games that had their multiplayer network kind of governed by it, they're unplayable now. So, want
Oh.
to play Battlefield 2? Nope. Want to play Unreal Tournament 3? Nope.
I think you can still play Battlefield 2 like as a LAN, or you can do it typing in the server address, can't you? I don't think I've ever installed GameSpy Arcade when installing Battlefield 2, but then
No, but I
who
think
knows?
it was all run by GameSpy, like at their end, kind of thing, like all the matchmaking stuff.
Interestingly enough, I know all the DLC for Battlefield 2 is now free. I'm pretty sure the game itself is free.
Yeah.
I think I haven't checked on Origin, but I know last time I got it, basically the latest patch for it is huge and contains all of the DLC.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure I read that it was unplayable. I know Unreal Tournament 3 is unplayable online now, and I know Crysis 2 is unplayable online as well as a result. And
So that died really quickly, Crysis 2 online. I remember playing the beta for it on my Xbox,
Same
and
here.
I kind of enjoyed it. I never got around to picking the game up until a couple of years ago, and it was just basically nobody played it online anymore because they
Yeah.
couldn't.
That's the problem with like all these online only games that are coming out at the moment, like Rainbow Six Siege and the Star Wars Battlefront and things like that. Is that it's a gamble with longevity. You know, in a year's time or even less, it could be completely dead. I mean, to be honest, with Battlefront, I doubt that's going to be the case. It's popular as hell right now, but you know what I mean. Like, you're taking a gamble these days with all these on multiplayer only things, and on top of that, like, they're taking away these single player campaigns, but we're not seeing anything put in its place. Like, we're not seeing extra things being put into the multiplayer, like all these extra resources that they have free from not putting a campaign in. We're still getting full price games, but with less in it.
So I can name 3 games off the top of my head easily that could survive on multiplayer alone: GTA 5, COD, and Battlefield.
Well, on the last gen now, on the 360 and PS3, COD is multiplayer only.
Oh, on Black Ops 3 it is, yeah.
But then, I mean, I would also argue against your point that if a game is multiplayer only, you don't know whether it would have been the same game with single player. You can't see the extra effort that's gone into multiplayer because you haven't got 2 versions of the game to compare it. You can't say, oh, the multiplayer would be the same, because maybe the multiplayer wouldn't have been as good if they had to do stuff with single player as well.
Well, like, for example, with Rainbow Six Siege, I'm not seeing any extra game modes that over the originals. But then again, saying that, I couldn't even get into a game when I played the beta, and that was just a beta as well. So, actually, yeah, that's a bad example. I'm going to sidestep that one.
Did you know the original Unreal had a deathmatch mode?
Oh, really? Oh, what, the story one?
The original story-based Unreal had a deathmatch mode with bots,
Oh,
which possibly was a spawning point for Unreal Tournament.
intriguing.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I don't know. It's just you have to basically be like sort of really at the top end of popularity to make sure your multiplayer game really kicks off. And I think there's a lot of people that are trying to play the game of me too that don't realise what they need to do to make sure that the community for their game stays strong and consistent, because a multiplayer game is only as good as its community. If you've got no one playing it, then it's useless. There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
The community. Just like the green light system.
Oh, God.
Steam had such high aspirations, and from the onset it seemed like a good idea, really, didn't it? But the one thing they never anticipated was something that is completely community focused and relies on the community. They never thought the community would be utter shite.
Yeah, all those Unity asset games. The thing is, they must be selling, because otherwise, why would people still be doing it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the thing. Like, all these bad decisions that are made in the games industry, they only carry on because people support it. Just vote with your wallets.
Exactly. It's all capitalism. It's all money.
Yeah. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on Greenlight, Pete and Adam?
I haven't really looked too much into Greenlight, to be honest. So I wouldn't know that much about it.
I've more been warded away from it. I haven't really looked into it too much either, just because of there's been a lot of bad press and people complaining about the types of games on there. I think I did once go on there to vote for Distance, which is a game that I actually paid money for on Kickstarter, just because I wanted to see that come to Steam as well. Not that it's actually been properly released yet; it's still in beta.
No, but the thing is, like,
still a very good game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even in its early access state, it still is a good game in of itself, and it's showing promise as something that, when it's complete, will be good as well. And they're constantly adding bits and pieces to it. That's the thing with early access. They need to show that they're constantly working on it and show that the finished product is going to be good. Like, a lot of people are sort of having this whole attitude of, oh, it's early access, you can't criticise it, it's early access. It's like, well, I can criticise what they've done so far, and so far what they've done is not particularly promising.
I think
it's not Distance. I mean, like, if I'm talking about, if I was saying,
I think it needs to be less criticism and more feedback, really, because I think that's kind of almost kind of the point of early access, is that you can give them money to help them, but you can, if you turn around and say, oh, actually, I've been playing this game mode and I don't really like this part of it, maybe it'd be better this way, that's fine. But if you just turn around and say, oh, this game is shit, that's like, why are you saying that?
But then on top, the problem is it's the games that you can tell are just Unity asset things, and they're the ones that are not going to get finished because they're just in that horrible state, and people are basically defending that kind of crap because it's early access. It's like early access and trying something new doesn't give you an instant kind of immunity from criticism. That's the thing that we need to get across, really. It's just a case of, be constructive with criticism, but at the same time, when something is just made just to be put out as crap for a quick...
Yeah, but I think there's also the problem as well is that Steam for, years and years and years has been this place where you go and buy a finished game. And now they're saying, oh... It's like your experience with the Rainbow Siege beta. People have been slamming that because it was terrible, but you think beta doesn't mean that you get to play it before everyone else does. Beta means, here is a game, we think there's stuff wrong with it still, can you play it and tell us what's wrong with it? And I think there needs to be more focus on that for the early access stuff, is, hey, here's something that I haven't finished yet. You can say bad things about it, but you need to tell me why and how I can fix it. Not just. I think people are just assuming they're going to get brand new games for cheap.
The problem is there is a kind of standard that you still need to kind of expect. I mean, the Rainbow Six Siege beta was completely unplayable. The matchmaking was that bad you couldn't actually get into a match at all.
But then I think the matchmaking on that sort of scale is something they obviously couldn't test before the beta, because even if they get every employee in the company, that's not as many people as are going to be playing it on the beta.
I know, but like, when you say it's unplayable, I can't play it, so therefore I can't give you feedback. Like, that's the sort of thing where people are like, well, what do you expect as a beta? What do you expect? It's like, well, that's my feedback. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I think all people, they need to be accepting of the fact that I think there's just a big confusion around the fact that beta doesn't mean it's not like a pre-order. It's I'm going to test this and I fully accept that it could be pretty crap.
Yeah,
I think there's just a bit of semantic clashes going on with the word unplayable, because usually, I say usually, when you say something is unplayable, it can conjure images of completely unpalatable, as in it was so rubbish that you just can't stomach it.
Like how people misuse the word literally.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Not anymore. Dictionary's been changed.
Yeah, don't go into that. Anyway, yeah, I think a better term would to be, inconclusive. As you say, if you can't actually play the game, if you can't actually test, it's a non-starter. It's unable to test, so you can't say anything either way.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Just Cause 3 has been released and it's doing that, so we can talk about that one.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like, hey, we got your money. And the thing is, there's all these instances where these things don't get finished and they don't get fixed. Look at Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, they've outright said that they're probably never going to fix that completely.
I played all the Trials games, Trials Evolution. I got the beta for Fusion.
Yeah.
And that game's been absolutely fantastic to play. It's been fun to play.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, the thing is, when these developers are releasing these open betas, they're basically saying, this is kind of a sample of where we're trying to go. This is just kind of like a sort of proposal in a way. This is what we want to do. And it's basically not only please test it for us, but it's also a marketing tool, really. Like, even if that's not the original intention of a beta, that's what's happened now.
Yeah.
And if they're going to just put out something that's like absolutely atrociously horrible, like those Unity asset games, and then when people just completely slam it, they're going to just get defensive about it. What do they expect?
I think the marketing is especially for multiplayer games where you're really dependent on the community. If people don't pick it up enough from launch, then people aren't going to want to pick it up later because nobody else is playing it. And so the beta gets a lot of people playing it who are then more likely to carry on playing it, and they're half your marketing.
It's interesting, really, isn't it? Like, a beta is basically a demo for the 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people need to realise, basically the word on this is, beta doesn't mean demo. They're two different things. We used to get one and now we get the other.
Exactly. I'd much prefer a demo, to be honest, because at least in a demo, they try hard to really show off their product, and they make it they make it workable. There's nothing completely wrong. There might be a few inconsistencies, and you only get a taste of it.
Yeah.
But at least it's workable. It's like a proof of concept, if you will. A beta, on the other hand, is different. It's basically it's the working project, but just in a very early stage.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure if people quite understand, as you said, Pete. They don't really understand what it is and how to respond to it.
Yeah.
Do
But
you remember when we used to get demo discs with consoles?
Oh, yeah.
Pepperidge
PlayStation
Farm
1
remembers.
demo disc. Didn't matter if you hadn't bought a game, you can slam this in and play it.
What about the PS1 or PS2 magazines for you? You used to get demo discs with that and play them. And then occasionally you should get a cheat disc. Ooh, naughty,
That's
naughty.
bad man.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, just as a closing thought, like, what's the most played demo you guys have ever played, like, just in general?
Just
Oh,
played-
crikey.
Medieval. I got it on with our first PlayStation 1. We got a demo disc and it had Porsche Challenge and Medieval on it. And
Oh,
me
I
and my
remember that
brother
one.
used to just play Medieval so much. Just on the demo disc. We never actually bought the game. We just used to play it on the demo disc so much, and that was enough for us.
Nice.
Was it Future Cop LAPD?
Oh, yeah.
Future Cop LAPD
Yeah.
demo.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. That had, like, 2 of the maps, and, like, the training one is the only one I ever played, even when I got the full game.
Yeah. It's the best map.
I've got fond memories of I don't remember which demo disc it was, but there was I played the demo of Colin McRae Rally.
Oh,
And what made this interesting is every time you booted this demo, it would randomly select a track, and I was always used to hope for a certain one. I was like, come on, be New Zealand, and and there's like the snow level. And I was like, oh.
One thing that was really weird is I remember there was some PlayStation demo discs that had these weird little indie games on them as well. Like, did you guys ever encounter those?
No.
Yeah, so I can't remember
Yeah.
any, but
To answer the question, mine was Toonby for PlayStation. That weird one with the character with the pink hair that's like taking out these evil pigs. It's actually a really good little platformer, but it's so rare to get the full game now. It's like 50 quid. I think even the demo disc with it on sells for like 7-8 quid on eBay.
and that's for a PS1 game.
Yeah.
50 quid.
Just
That's-
one final point, as I said about a demo not representing the final game. game called Circuit Breakers, which is it plays a little bit like Micro Machines, except for the camera is sort of more focused on your sort of vehicle driving around the tracks. It's more focused on. There is a multiplayer, as in obviously having your friends round because this was a PlayStation 1 game, but I think the main focus was the single player. It was quite fun. You'd race around these sort of
did they
different
take the
environments.
multiplayer out of the full one? Then I'm guessing.
Oh no! I mean, basically the demo, and this I can't remember much more about it, but the one thing that sticks in my mind is on the demo, the way they sort of did this game. It's just quite an interesting little mechanic. The first screen you get to after you sort of gone into past the main menu is you sort of enter this sort of what looks like a test room, and on the floor are these different discs, and you sort of have this sort of generic weird bubble car. You drive the bubble car onto a disc, and it goes, and it like lifts up, and it's actually a podium. And then the bubble car will turn into that type of car, and that's how you select what vehicle you want to drive on the tracks. And then you drive off and go into this bit where you select what track you want. And the music for that bit there in the demo disc was actually a lot more suiting to this like sort of interim zone than it was in the actual game. In the actual game, there was a different music that was used in this car select screen, and the music that was used in that car select on the demo was used as a track music, and it really didn't fit being a track music.
So basically, they George Lucased it.
Possibly.
Yeah. If you have any demos that you want to talk about in the comments with us, just let us know what you sort of thought of some of the demos back in the old PS1 days or PC days. Or I doubt Mega Drive had demos because of the cost of cartridges, but that anything back then. Or if you have any questions about anything else we discussed, feel free to leave that in the comments, and we'll probably have a chat with you in the comments or bring it up
maybe even
next week.
PS2, depending on your age.
Yeah, anything. I mean, heck, I think Steam still even has demos, but every now and again. But yeah, just give us a shout if you want to, and we'll have a chat with you about that. Anyway, thanks for listening to this week's TAPcast. I've been Terry. That's been Peter there.
Yep.
There's an Adam.
Bye.
And there's our Alex.
Hello. Oh, goodbye again.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.